Armagnac really came into being as a real bona fide industry in the 1400s. Another demarcated region, but the vineyard space is much, much less than Cognac. The two regions that you really need to be aware of are the topaz-colored Baz Armagnac and then Tenerife, the green. And the reason is very simple: pure volume. Baz Armagnac vineyards provide 57% of the grapes that go into Armagnac. In Tenerife, they account for 40% of all the grapes grown that are used for the making of Armagnac. Now, what's kind of interesting is whereas the wines of the wines of Cognac, yeah. Why is that an oxymoron?
That's right.
The Cognac-A's want very high acid wines in order to distill. The wines, however, in Armagnac are really nice. I mean, they are nice wines. And so the Armagnac say, well, the reason that we prefer Armagnac and the reason that the French prefer Armagnac, because 65% of all the Armagnac that's made in Gascony, the French drink. Only 35% of Armagnac is exported. So that's why the world hasn't the penny hasn't dropped yet for the world about Armagnac, because there's so little of it around compared to Cognac. So 37,000 acres, 65% is consumed within France, 35% is sent overseas, and only right now to about 72 countries. So, and that keeps dwindling, unfortunately. The juggernaut of Cognac just completely overshadows Armagnac. Distillation-wise, and here is where we really start to separate huge differences between these two classic grape brandies. Is primarily in distillation. The grape types are pretty much the same. In Cognac, we said what? In Cognac, everything was pot still distillation. In small pot stills, distilled twice at very, very low degrees, 72% alcohol. In Armagnac, 95% are run through column stills. Ugni Blanc is the overwhelming choice for those 37,000 acres, to the tune of about 92 to 93%. But then you have smaller amounts of Colombard, you have smaller amounts of Full Blanche, and you have smaller amounts of a grape Baco A22. Now, some of the old traditionalists in Armagnac did not want it to be involved as an official grape of Armagnac, and they fought this in court. And the new generation who said, come on, you know, this is a substantially good grape that makes terrific eau de vie, that eventually, after aging, becomes great Armagnac. So why shouldn't we be able to plant it just because it's a hybrid? What, are you nuts? There is this great divide in Armagnac right now between the old generation, and we're going to taste something that is old generation, we're going to taste something that's new generation. So you see what I'm talking about. The old generation does not want to change. VS Armagnac is 2-year minimum in the barrel. And they much prefer black oak, whereas in Cognac, they prefer white oak from Limousin and Trancé. The Armagnac-A's prefer black oak. Black oak is a tighter grain. And by having a tighter grain than the white oak, the eau de vies, the brandies in barrel, need a little bit more time to age. VSOP for Armagnac is 5 years minimum. And we break a little bit with Armagnac. Again, XO is 6 years. And then there's a fourth category just called Hordage, HORSD''AGE, and that's a minimum of 10 years. And they have those 4 classifications. Another area of real difference with Cognac, of course, is the fact that in Armagnac, they really love to have vintage dates they prefer to have vintage dates on their brandies. Whereas, even though it's legal in Cognac to do that, the Cognac-A's much prefer to go with what's brought them to the dance. And what's brought them to the dance and made them a lot of money is the art of blending. Whereas the Armagnac people are a little bit more, I'll put that in the bottle, I think it'll work. The Cognac people are much more rigid about it. and they believe in blending. Lots of different different from the 6 different demarcated areas to get that blend, that's what really makes Cognac move. In Armagnac, there is some blending, absolutely. That's why they have the VS, VSOP, and XO, and Hors. But their deal really is they prefer to put out vintages. And the vintages must be distilled, and here's a law for vintage Armagnac. You might want to write down or underline in your book. Vintage Armagnac must be just from 1 year. So if it's 1972, all the grapes must have been harvested, made into wine, vinified, and distilled by the end of 1972. You cannot take any of those grapes or wine and then put it into 1973, distill it there, and call it 1972. Everything has to be done. Grapes, grape growing, grape harvesting, winemaking, and distillation in Armagnac must be done all in 1 year.